Welcome back, Dragonsworn. The sprint continues. Welcome back, everybody. Any new people, welcome to the channel. We're going to try something different with this review. The first one got extremely long, so I'm going to try and just click through this one and hit major points in episode 2 to make it not so long. I do want to say, episode 2, you do start seeing some of the decisions from season 1, or I'm sorry, not season 1, episode 1, start to affect things that are happening in the plot in the story in episode 2. So let's not beat around the bush. Let's get to it. Try and keep this to a decent length. So here we go. So we got Valda here looking creepy as ever. I think pretty much so far the White Cloaks seem to be fine. Attitude-wise, I guess. I'm okay with their outfits like this for when they're not battling, like the full white robes without the little shoulder things, which we'll see later in the episode. You get the little the one shoulder armor thing. The shoulder armor would be fine if they were a full plate, but it just looks weird with the robes. If they're traveling, it'd be better if they're just in their robes with like a different color sun badge or something to show that whether they're a questioner or their rank or whatever. The full-on shoulder thing is a little bit weird. But I think he looks good here, and I think he's very creepy, so he does a good job. I think he's very good casting in terms of Valda. So we're gonna try and use the bar here to pick some key points out here. So this part right here, I found a bit annoying, and maybe they'll elaborate on it later. But I didn't like that they're sort of, I guess, alluding to the fact that if you chop off a channeler's hands, they can't channel, which I think is, I just don't like it. I guess it's a way to give White Cloaks some more control over Aes Sedai, but I don't think it's a little bit clunky. I'd rather have it be tactical, prowess, sneak attacks, or just overwhelming Aes Sedai with numbers, like is what their tactic is in the book, I guess. They're not really seen as they're more of a thorn in the side of Aes Sedai than an actual threat. But Valda's obviously got rings displayed, so they're quite successful with whatever they're doing. Chopping off their hands after, I'm not sure how that allows them to get even close enough, but I guess we'll see. So let's move on. So then we get this whole Perrin ferry scene. It's fine. It is what it is. The Trollocs are hot on their tails. Gets the ferrymen motivated to go. That's all fine. It sort of paints Moraine in the not best light, even though she's doing what's necessary. So I guess it's just showing that she's going to do whatever she needs to do to, keep them safe. Obviously, there's nothing she can do. The guy makes the choice to get in the ferry and drown. So, nothing really much to say about the ferry scene here. So let's move on to the next scene. Alright, so then we get to this scene where they're resting after they've lost the Trollocs, which is, in essence, fine. It's nice to see her energizing the horses. That was sort of a cool little effect, so I was okay with all that. It was not bad. I felt like, I guess the boys were being a little, there you had Lan obviously showing some concern for Moraine, which is all good. I felt like they're being a little naive about the ferryman, but that's okay. They start out a little naive and not very worldly. So Egwene is on Moraine's side right away, which is fine. Then we're gonna get into a part here where I actually liked. Oh, we're not quite there yet. I'm sorry. So we're not quite to the point the scene I liked a lot. This is the Moraine pulls Egwene aside to teach her that she can channel, which the scene in itself is fine. I have no problem with it. I think it was well done. Using her jewel. I don't know why she doesn't have her jewel on her head, but whatever. I mean, she's carrying it around with her. At least she has it. Um, she should just be wearing it. but I guess that's just another costume decision. Um, so she's teaching Egwene that she can use the power, and that's all well and good. Um, so I like that scene. I think they did a good job accurately portraying it from the book too. So that's all good. So not much right so far. It's been it's a bit slow to get started, which is okay. It's giving it some time to breathe. But I think my overall issues, my biggest issues, come with the second half of the second episode. So let's keep going. So it teaches her how to channel. Then she tries to snuggle up to Rand. Rand's like, I want to be alone. Leave me alone. You already rejected me. Alright, building up some tension between her. It is what it is. With her and him, it is what it is. We're going to get some of that drama. We'll see where it leads in the story. You get Perrin and Egwene talking about going back home. Perrin being downtrodden. It is what it is. Then we get to... Here's the scene I was talking about. Let's see if I can get to it. Alright, so this scene I actually enjoyed quite a bit because I didn't know what was going on at first. I was like, what the heck is happening? And then the big thing happened. So let's try and skip through it here a little bit. So we'll see. You got Rand waking up. Going, what's going on? What, man, I got something in my throat here. What's going on? Right? Coughing. And then this whole thing is like, what is happening, right? I'm like, so I'm, they caught me off guard with this. So I was like, what the frick is going on here? And then he starts pulling something out of his mouth, and he pulled a bat out of his mouth. It's like, what the hell is happening? Like, I didn't pick up on it, right? And then, let's see if I can get there you go, boom. Then that happens. So I really like the dream scene because the way they sliced it in there, I didn't know what was going on until as they're calling him in the show Ishmael, which is fine. You don't want people to get confused between Ishmael and Balsamon. There's enough names bouncing around, so I'm not too worried about them calling him Ishmael right off the bat. So Ishmael shows up looking creepy as ever in his dream. And I was pretty happy with how that scene went because it was spliced in there really well, and I was like, what is happening? So that was good. So let's continue. So they wake up to see that there's bats everywhere. Then they go through explaining the dream to Moraine. We got all the bats dead there. They all had the dream. They tell her about seeing Ishmael there. Obviously, she's worried. I feel like they're speeding up the dream stuff here, and I felt like they kept it a secret for a while. I'd have to go back and check the book, to be honest, but I understand needing to speed that up a little bit. Build up the drama about how dreams can affect you. But it would have been nice if they kept the secret a little bit longer. But, I'm not going to nitpick too much. Then you have the scene with Rand basically losing his patience with Moraine, and Moraine losing her patience back. I think I think they're building tension between Moraine and Rand, which is okay. All the innocence of the boys and stuff is lost in this, which is the choice they made to speed up the plot, which is just something I'm going to have to get used to. But Rand is immediately on the defensive with Moraine. I'm not sure how much I believe that Moraine would just tell them to F off and I've lost patience, because at this point she doesn't know which one of them is the dragon. She knows that Egwene can channel, and since now we've lumped her in the dragon search, which once again makes no sense. Um, I don't know if in this we're supposed to think that she thinks that that's, she's the lead candidate because she can channel or what. But maybe she just is calling their bluff and knows that they'll follow. And I think that's a reasonable thing to assume, that they're out in the middle of nowhere now. They're just country bumpkins at this point, haven't been away from home, so the odds are that they're going to follow no matter what. So I think that's okay. I think Rand's little outburst about, what's a man to do at the tower, I think that's all fine too. So actually, overall, this scene in the woods is actually pretty good. I didn't mind much of it. I thought actually the dream sequence and some of the confrontations and conversation back and forth was pretty okay. So I enjoyed this part so far. Of course, the other two have to convince Rand. Rand is the most stubborn. We are definitely pouncing on how stubborn Rand is, which I don't know where. We'll see where it goes. But the other two convince Rand that we got to see this through, which is fine at this point. Fine. All right. Now this is the little sail things or guard. I mean, they're obviously of rank. I think they look silly on the white cloaks. But it is what it is, I guess. I don't. I think these would look fine if you just took that thing off for traveling clothes. Easy to put plate over them for battle. I think it would look fine, but this little sail deal thing on there, I'm not convinced. But then you have the white cloaks scene closing on Moraine and crew. They've made Emin Valda a questioner in this, which is fine. I think we gotta to move things up. We got to change some things around. So that, and Emin Valda being questioned, not a huge thing. I'm wondering what they're gonna do with Geoffrey Bornhold, if they're gonna change his story at all. But I don't have a big problem with Emin Valda being a questioner. What I do have a big problem with is he must not be very good at his job, contrary to what we're to believe, because or either that or there's something going on between Bornhold and Emin Valda that Emin Valda doesn't want to tip his hand that he knows that Moraine's Aes Sedai, because he's carrying these rings around. I think he should be able to sniff out pretty quickly, if he's any good at questioning, that she is an Aes Sedai. But we don't know. I guess this is where we're going to have some problems with the White Cloaks, I think, because we don't know if Emin Valda and Geoffrey are on the same side, because you got the questioner ranks, and then you got the soldier ranks right here. This is a good shot to see both of them in there. He's the head of the armor on the right. He's the head of the interrogators, basically on the left. I would assume he's going to be hunting down Aes Sedai. He's going to be the tactical battle commander. Okay, now Geoffrey on the right here tells Moraine to go get healed by an Aes Sedai, which would never ever happen in the books. This is like a religious group that can't stand channeling, let alone Aes Sedai, the whole of them. So for him to say that makes me wonder if there's something else going on with the White Cloaks in the TV show. That the soldiers aren't fanatics. I don't know. I don't know. It's weird because you got Emin Valda interrogating her badly, maybe on purpose because he's going to go hunt them down later and do what he did to the other one, the yellow sister at the beginning of the show. And then got Bornhold over here telling her to go get healed by an Aes Sedai. I would expected some sort of reaction out of Valda at that point, saying, at least a conversation between them, why would you send them to the Tarvalin witches? Because that's how they feel. They're fanatical against Aes Sedai and channeling. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I didn't like this scene because I didn't believe that they would have made it past. I don't think they should have made it past. Like I said, Emin Valda's got rings as trophies on his hip. So unless Valda's playing some games to get her on her to circle back and get capture them on his own and do his form of justice, um, I'm not sure how she got by him, but I guess that's something to see in later episodes. But I didn't really like this scene because it made it seem like Valda's not as good as he should be, and White Cloaks don't care about Aes Sedai. They're okay with Aes Sedai healing. That's very, very weird, and I don't think that's very good look for the White Cloaks. I think the White Cloaks should just be a fanatic religion that are against all channeling and against Aes Sedai. I think that works better. I think that that's a better look for the White Cloaks. I think it works fine in the books. I think it works better in the books. I don't know why half of the White Cloaks would be okay with Aes Sedai and half of them would not be. It makes no sense. So here we have a little discussion between Egwene and Moraine about lying and Aes Sedai and the three O's. You get a little hint at the Aes Sedai word twisting and a little bit more knowledge about healing, which is fine. It's a little throwaway scene, but it gives you a little bit of an idea of the turn of phrase of Aes Sedai. I think it's fine to have in there. So here we get, you can see Moraine is struggling a little bit. Mat decides to sing a song. All the kids join in, and then she goes on about Manetheren. Which is all, I like this part for the most part, her talking about the old blood and how strong the blood of Manetheren is. I think it would have been cool rather than just going from face to face here and just continuing as she's giving her rundown of King Aemon. Would have been a cool place to sort of almost insert some of that animation they have after, in the X-ray part. You could just fade into that with her voiceover instead of the voiceover from the extra stuff afterwards, to fill in some of the gaps and rather just going from face to face. Overall, it's fine because I'm glad they showed how the old blood is important and that they should all have it running. Well, not all of them. Apparently, it's only a few of them. Nynaeve isn't part of that anymore, which aggravates me since she's not from the Two Rivers, according to the show. But yeah, it was okay to be included. I wish they just did something more visually to represent what she was saying. If you get my drift. So, in between Moraine's speech and getting here, we have a lot of brooding and scenery shots and stuff like that. I understand there's a time and place for those, and this again comes back to me having an issue with them deciding to shorten Eye of the World in such a way. I'll say it again, it's a choice. It wasn't something they had to do. I think Amazon would have been fine with having 10 seasons of good content, but again, they're sprinting through things and adding other things just to break up the talking. So events that could be happening aren't happening because they've removed them, because they need to get to these events as quick as possible and get through event and then let it breathe a little bit. So we had the whole sprint of Winter Night. Now we're getting introductions to White Cloaks, and then just there's quite a bit of filler in here. The dream sequence scene was good, and I understand this shows the distance they're having to travel, but I don't know that I feel like they could have done it another way and added more from Eye of the World. We'll just put it that way. So then we have this conversation about Shadar Logoth, and we hinted how dangerous the city is. And that's good. There's just not enough of it. I don't think it's hinted at, and then they sprint towards it. Because Moraine is out of the game at that point. We'll get there. We're getting into more of the problems I have with this episode here shortly. Then they talk about Aemon Valda, and is he the one that's been killing the sisters? So it brings up several questions, which I'm sure we'll find out later. Why is he able to kill them and others have not been? And stuff like that. Then it also brings up a question of the three O's for me. If he is an imminent threat to her life, she should be able to just dispatch with him. I know she's not going to stand. Well, any of them, any of the Aes Sedai, if their life is threatened and they fear death, if they are in harm's way, they can use the one power against anything they want to. So I'm not sure how that's going to work either. Yeah, I can understand her not. Of course, one, she's injured, and two, there's a whole bunch more White Cloaks than just him around. So I can understand her not, lashing out at him. But they're going to have some tap dancing to do for a reason why Aes Sedai don't just crush Em and Valda if they're coming after him and threatening their lives. Especially if he's, I think him having rings on his, rings of other sisters on his person as trophies is enough provocation for them to be like, well, this guy's a danger to my life. And then be convinced of it, because that's the biggest thing with the three O's is they can lie as long as they don't think they're lying, and they can, as long as they can, make them feel that they're not breaking the oath, they can do whatever they want. So we'll see what happens with the White Cloak stuff. And part of me thinks this is stuff that they didn't think about, but I guess we'll see later. So I also don't particularly like that they made Rand the lovesick puppy that got denied. That's not... I mean, I understand it, I guess, to a point for the series. It's one of the things that I'm not going to agree with, but it moves things along for their relationship and I guess their age. But, that's not really how anything went in the books at all. I mean, they sort of they had their differences, and they were supposed to be together, and then they just grew apart, and you find out that they're basically on the same page when they get back together, that they love each other, but not that way. Here it's she's moved on, Rand is still in love with her and can't let go. I don't particularly like that, but I guess I understand why they're doing it, as long as he just moves on at some point. If he's just hooked up, if he's just hung up on it for the whole series, or even the the first few seasons, until he meets some of his other love interests, then it's going to get a little bit annoying. But we'll see. It's a tiny bit annoying now. It's going to get more annoying if it continues. Okay, so this scene, it's a Perrin scene. You hear some howling in the distance, and some foreshadowing of what's going to happen with Perrin here, which is fine. And then you see he's taking a wound here. Now, I don't know if this is alluding to maybe is this a Trolloc wound that he took? Is that a Trolloc bite? And that's how he ends up getting the powers he ends up getting. I guess that could work for the TV show. Hell, I guess that could have worked for the book. It's not really explained in the book. So this, I actually think, could be a good addition. Gives an explanation why Perrin ends up how he is. So I think this is actually a place where it helps define why Perrin ends up where he is. So I think this is a good addition. And I do like the wolf howling in the background. So I think this was good stuff. I think it was good. I think it was helpful for people watching. And I actually think for people that like and are trying for wanting them to follow the book even more closely, I think this is even a good addition for the book. I think would have been a good explanation as to why he gets his powers. And then, of course, you get the wolves watching him. More subtle foreshadowing, but I do like it. And then you get the scene. I do like how they sort of have a stare down. Perrin's like, I don't know I have nowhere to go. Why are you watching me? Do they smell my blood? Are they going to kill me? I think that's might be what's going through his brain. And then I'm not sure if this is Hopper here or not, but one of the wolves comes on over and starts cleaning his wound. I think it's actually really good. I liked this scene quite a bit. Alright, so now this is where this episode starts going off the rails completely for me. Because it hasn't been too. I actually was enjoying portions of it up until we started getting to here. So now Moraine's got the wound. It's obviously uh, wearing her down. You can see it through the whole episode. It's starting to make her weaker and weaker and weaker. So, um, this is part of why what comes after this. This is part of why I don't think she should have ever got wounded, because it removes her from some of the most important parts of this episode. Because she's out. She's out of commission. She's the wound has taken its toll, and she is in deep medical need of healing to recover. Having her out of the game for Shadar Logoth is a big minus. I think she needs to be up alert and help explain some things that are happening, not only to the audience, because the people that were watching with me were completely confused what the heck was going on in Shadar Logoth. And frankly, so was I. It's one of those. There's no explanation as to what's going on. It's bad city, and we don't want to go in it. And a few things happen because we need them to happen because they happen in the books and they're important for the plot. We're not going to explain any of it, but we're just going to do it. So let's get there. All right. So now, obviously, the Trollocs are on them, so they didn't get to get any sleep. Perrin heaves up Moraine, and off they go towards Shadar Logoth. So then we get to the horses are stopping short. They don't want to go any forward because they've arrived at Shadar Logoth. So even the horses know that the city is bad and they don't want to go in it. So which is a fine little tidbit. I do have to say also, I didn't say it with the Trolloc in the forest. I did like to see that the Trollocs were all running in different ways. All the Trollocs still looked and seemed to be different and unique, which is, I think, a good touch. I think the walls of Shadar Logoth is a very cool shot. I thought this was very neat looking. Not much more else to say about this than that, but I thought this was a very cool shot and just show how imposing the city is and was. And then we see this fist of Trollocs sitting here. They won't go forward anymore because they're at the walls of Shadar Logoth. This is all fine and dandy. It shows that no matter how bad the Trollocs are, there are some things that are worse. I wish it was explained a little bit more in depth in the city, but at least this shows you that the Trollocs don't even want to go. So I want you to remember this though. Look at all the Trollocs. There are Trollocs everywhere. I do want to mention that I think Shadar Logoth looked great. I just think they wasted it. So I think the place looked phenomenal. Okay, so here we get a brief introduction to Shadar Logoth from Lan's perspective, telling the group the history of it and why the city's abandoned, which is all fine, all good information. I don't think there's enough emphasis put on the fact that they should not eat anything from here, touch anything. They should not even leave the room. I think that it's understated how bad things are out there. I think it's quite obvious why. I mean, and all the silly. I don't like all the "why did you bring us here?" You've killed us, bringing us here stuff. It's one of those. It's obvious he didn't want to come here, but what's the option? Behind them, they have, hundreds and hundreds of Trollocs. So it's either become Trolloc food, or get captured by the Trollocs, or try something. So, I mean, I guess I just don't like how it's fairly obvious why he brought them here. These are now, if they're not kids, if that's a kiddie question, okay? We're not supposed to be treating these characters as children anymore. In the books, they're children. That's a question a child would ask. It's very obvious why they're here, at least in my opinion. If we're supposed to treat these people like thinking, smart, grown-up people, they would understand why Lan had no choice but to lead them here, and why at this point this is their best chance, even though it's not a great chance, and it's very, 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 very dangerous. It's understated how dangerous it is to a fact. But it's fairly obvious that there was no choice than other to do this. So if we're supposed to act like these children are adults and are doing adult things, and no adult things are going to be asking adult questions, they should act like adults and be able to assess their surroundings and know that that's why they're here, because they have no choice. So I think it's understated. I think that he doesn't. That's why Moraine shouldn't be down at this point. This is where Moraine shines. She explains everything to everybody. The importance of staying together, the importance of not wandering around, the importance of not taking anything beyond Shadar Logoth's walls, and all of that. This is where Moraine does her thing and explains everything to everybody and says it's more dangerous than you could even think. Don't go out. Don't wander. Stay here. All right. So now we're getting to the parts that aggravated me very, very. Well, they pissed me off. We'll just put it right there. We'll throw it out there. Most of this episode up until here has been okay. Good. Some good parts. Some bad parts. Some meh parts. But mostly okay. Nothing to be stark raving mad about. But now we're back to, and I've heard, I've had discussions, I've heard people say that Perrin having a wife and having killed her is going to give Perrin more depth later in the story. I disagree. I think, one, if he was going to kill somebody, it should have been Master Luon. I don't think he needed to be married. I think it was just a cheap way to try and get to get us to feel for him for accidentally killing his wife. I think it should have been Master Luon. I think there should have been more emphasis on Perrin being a blacksmith and being a dedicated apprentice to Master Luon. And I think killing Master Luon with the axe that he made, that Master Luon made, would have emphasized his hatred for the weapon that he is forced to use. Now, one, he doesn't even have that weapon in this story, which I think is a huge mistake. Two, it's barely been emphasized at all that he's a blacksmith. And in this, they have him brooding about killing his wife and this, that, and the other, and that's why he's not talking, and that's not why he's downtrodden and all this stuff. In the books, he's supposed to come off. He comes off to people as slow. And stupid, because he likes to think things out. So he's not slow or stupid. He's just rational, and he likes to take his time to make decisions. I think that's a much better angle than I'm sad and I'm going to be hesitant to use a weapon because I killed my wife. So that's touching on all that again. He still has no weapon. He still doesn't have his axe. I think that's a huge mistake, because I think that's a huge thing, and I think it's a great storyline for Perrin, choosing between having to be the fighter and wanting to be the blacksmith, and then eventually marrying the two and realizing that he can be both. Okay? And that he needs to be both, and that if you're fighting for, a good cause, then you need to fight. Okay? Now, we've traded his axe, his big moon-bladed axe with a wicked spike on the back, for this little tiny dagger that his wife's made. What the fuck? I'm sorry for cursing, but what the fuck are we doing here? One, Perrin, look at Perrin, he's huge. So, we're giving him a knife as a weapon. Two, Mat is the one that uses knives, so it makes more sense for him to have it. Three, the only reason he's giving it over is because his wife made it. So now he can stare at this knife and think about his wife, who he killed, over and over and over again throughout the show. Every time we see the wife, every time we see the knife, he's gonna be thinking about his wife and how he killed her, and then the guilt's gonna overcome him, and then he's not gonna want to act, and this, that, and the other, and then eventually he'll throw the knife away or some BS. I don't know. But I don't like it. I think it's clunky. I think they had a much better option and they chose not to do it. And I think that Perrin right now is worse off than anybody in the show, because he's a completely different character. 100% different character because his motivations are completely changed. It's all revolving around this character that they created for the show to try and give him an emotional problem. And I think it's a mistake. I think it's a huge mistake. But I guess we'll see how it unfolds. And then we also have this clunky line about her saying she makes weapons and not, or she doesn't make weapons, she makes tools. It's all just, I hate it. I hate it. It's a knife is a weapon and a tool. I don't know if he says that later, but whatever. But the whole weapon tool thing is supposed to be Perrin's inner conflict between his blacksmith hammer and his frickin' axe. You got the weapon, which is the axe. You got the hammer, which is the tool. So now we've turned it into a knife that, his motivations are now, of course, his wife's and not his. Do you see what I'm saying? These aren't his motivations, they're his wife's motivations. It's terrible. Perrin is in shambles. Mat starts to look a little better in portions of these episodes, especially the state they're in the episodes. So Mat's looking a little bit better, to be honest. I still don't like that he's a thief. I get that he's stealing for his daughter, or not his daughters, his sisters and all that stuff, because his parents are, maybe I'm more even pissed that his parents are pieces of crap. But Mat's doing a little better in this episode, just from the conversations that he's having, and the less emphasis on his backstory of him being a poor thief. Focus more on this stuff, I think, in my opinion. Then you get the subtle hint of Shadar coming out. I guess it's because they're there. It's not really explained. It's not, I guess it's just coming for them because it feels their presence. Again, people watching with me were utterly confused at what the heck was even going on, or what that even was. Again, this was Moraine's department explaining all this stuff. But she's got a knife wound, so she's down. Okay, so we get the whispering sounds of, I guess it's the echoes of the people of Hall. Fine. And then Mat wakes off and wanders off by himself. So I think this is where, once again, we have taken a bunch of stuff out because we don't have time, because we chose to cram it all into one episode. It could have been one episode or half an episode, but they got to cram it into 15 minutes because they got places to go. They got to get to other events. The world's got a ton going on. We got to hit on all the big points. Matt's in this strange city of evil that's been explained to him, and he's just going to wander off by himself because he heard something. It's silly, frankly, and then in the books, they're in pairs. They're told not to wander off in pairs, and Mat and Rand wander off together, which is stupid, but they're kids. They're kids, they're curious. They hear people doing stuff, and then they go into they wander around similar to this, and they find a bunch of treasure. And if I recall correctly, they're being shown visions of people, or I think it's Mordeth, who is not in this at all, which is a shame because Mordeth is the whole reason behind the fall of Hall. But I guess we're definitely not touching on that in the story here. He's coaxing them to take all this gold and take it out of the city. And they end up not. And then, unbeknownst to Rand, Mat has snuck out the dagger, which leads to Mat's problems later down. Here, he just wanders off. He finds a single box that happens to have a dagger in it, and he takes it. I think it's just a way to get Mat the dagger as quickly as possible and move on. And I think it's a shame because there's so much other stuff that could have been explored inside Shadar Logoth, and it was just, they stopped here so Mat could get the dagger, and that's it. That's the whole point of them stopping in Shadar Logoth. That, and then what ends up happening later, which is them getting split up. But the whole point of them getting here was so Mat could get this dagger, and that's it. So we got to check that off. Check it off, Mat's got the dagger. So Mat gets the dagger, of course, because he has to have the dagger. I'm going to take a second to say I hate the dagger. I think it's crap. I understand, the whole we tried to put it in the hilt and it didn't look right or it didn't show, blah, 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 blah. I think that's BS. Put a ruby in the dagger too, in the hilt too. There's no reason it couldn't have one in the hilt instead of, in the pommel there. But whatever. I don't know. They should just. There's room in the hilt for a ruby. Just put it in both, and then still a ruby hilted dagger with a ruby adornment. Whatever. I don't like how they designed half these things, but whatever. So Mat's got the dagger, because reasons, but because it's a major thing for Mat to have the dagger, but it's obvious we just had to get this plot point done and before we move on. At least to me. Tell me what you think. Then we get the shot of Shadar eating the horse. So, okay, fine. Shows what Shadar's a bad news. Fine. I don't have much to say about it. This is where we've completely skipped over Shadar Logoth here. It just get Mat the dagger and let's get out. Okay, then Moraine wakes up just long enough to call Lan an idiot. She should know better than anybody. Lan would not have brought them here unless there was no other choice. So I hate this part. She basically wakes up to call him an idiot and doesn't trust her faithful warder at all. Who should be, at this point, feeling all the pain that she's feeling, and she knows all this. Now, to be fair to her, she's dying. That's again why I hate the fact that she took this dagger wound and now she's out for the count right now, when she should be in the lead right here. I don't like that she's sick. I don't think she should be. I think she should be dictating the pace of all of this and explaining everything, because she is our wealth of knowledge to this world right now. Alright, so this is how they end up separated, because Rand decided to step that way instead of Rand being with Mat while he was off doing whatever, being deceived by Mordeth, the deceiver. I think it's stupid, but whatever. We had to get them separated. And so, plot point, check. Rand and Mat together, Perrin and Egwene together. Then also, the next part that pisses me off is coming up right after this, so let's get there. So then, of course, we have Egwene take the lead, and she's going to find find Rand. Because Rand is helpless, and, the go part would have been fine. We don't need to find you stuff. Obviously, Rand would stand around thinking about how I'm going to save Egwene. That's fine. But then she's got to take the lead and say, I'll find you. It's like, just leave it at go. Just leave it at go. You'll find each other. Of course, you guys all want to reunite. This is just to put her in the lead, and I hate it. Just say, go, I'll be fine, Perrin's here, or go, and they just go, anything. She's got Perrin right there. They'll find each other. This is distinctly to put her in the lead. At this point, Shadar is gone, because I guess it's chasing after the other four and doesn't care about them, which is silly, because it doesn't care. Shadar just eats. It doesn't care if you're anything. It just eats. How are those horses still there? I'm not really sure, but there they are. It ate the one horse, but didn't like the taste of Lan or Moraine's horses. So their horses are fine. Whatever. Okay, let's keep going. Of course, we're showing no care about the boys or the girls at this point. It's just we got to survive, which to where we're at in the show, fine. They need to survive. I get it. So everybody finds their ways out of the city. We build the tension with Mat and Rand. Rand, gets hoisted up and lets Mat get out. Perrin and Egwene are on top of the wall. It's fine. No problem. The tension part is good because maybe it's going to get Mat, maybe it's not. That's all TV show making. Of course, it's not going to get Mat, but the tension was fine there. I have no problem with this part right here. It's just how we got to this part of them getting separated and the escape. Okay, so you got Perrin and Egwene. They're going to go over the wall, which is fine. They're together. That's where they should be. Okay, and then you got Mat and Bran together, where they should be. So I want to stay on this shot for a minute, because initially I thought this was them going out the same way. I don't think it is, because there's not that crack all the way up the wall, but regardless, this is them coming out, I guess, the other side of Shadar Logoth. I don't know where they're coming out. I don't know if it's meant to be the entrance where they came in. I don't know if it's meant to be another, a hole in the wall somewhere else. Regardless, where are all the Trollocs at? Where did the Trollocs all go? I mean, the city is not completely surrounded with water, and if this was an easy exit on the other side of the city, why didn't they just ride out and make camp here? Or just ride out and get a lead on the Trollocs that are right on their heels? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you rest in the city that, you know, Moraine is obviously so afraid of? They're dead just for being in there. If you could ride from one end to the other and not have any Trollocs on the other side, why didn't you do that initially? If this is the same side they came out to begin with, where are the Trollocs? Hell, on the other side, where are the Trollocs? It doesn't make any sense. Where did the Trollocs all go? The reason I bring this up is because a lot of the tension and the drama in Shadar Logoth is because the Myrddraal, being as the dragon is in the city and Ishmael wants the dragon, the Myrddraal drive the Trollocs into the city and they get eaten by Mashadar, which gives them a window to escape. So instead of having what could have been a great scene of Trollocs infesting Shadar Logoth at the surprise of Lan and Moraine, because wow, I can't believe that the Trollocs would actually drive. They would never do this. Well, something's obviously driving them into the city to their death. We just have them wait outside. We rush through, get Mat the dagger, and then ride out, and the Trollocs are all gone. I don't believe for a second the Trollocs and the Myrddraal would give up that easily. They're nowhere to be seen. And I don't give me this is the other side of the city, because even if it is, it makes no sense why they wouldn't have rode out of the city that was so dangerous and just be on the other side where there's no Trollocs. If it would take that long for Trollocs to surround the city. And I know they don't like water. That's why they go. Rand and Egwene end up, or that's why they end up on the other side of the water, because and why it makes sense for them to be on the other side of the water, because the Trollocs won't follow them that way, so they have to find a way around to try and to run them down. Them just coming out the other side of the city, it bothers me. Without having the Trollocs driven into the city and killed. If I'm wrong, let me know. So at this point, everybody's separated, which they should be, which is fine. But then you get the surprise of the episode, which made me laugh, because she should be dead. So Lan is so concerned with Moraine, he's not paying attention, which is fine, since she's wounded. And then he gets someone gets the drop on him, and then you find out it's Nynaeve. So and then they go into it in the next episode. I don't mind Nynaeve getting the drop on her because she's a great tracker, and something happens similar in the book. That's all fine. It's just how they end up getting her here. Where is she too? If they came out the other side of Shadar Logoth, how is she on the other side of Shadar Logoth? How did she know that they'd be there? It makes no sense. So if they went out the other side of Shadar Logoth and there were no so they could avoid the Trollocs, how did she get through? If they went out the entrance, where are the Trollocs? If she came behind them, even through the city, how did she get through the Trollocs? Where did all the Trollocs go? Are we to believe the Trollocs just gave up? That's why it was important to have the whole scene where the Trollocs are being eaten by Mashadar. So, that brings us to the end of the episode. I mean, that's the end of the episode. I mean, there were some good things in it, but the whole tail end of it just made me just hate it. We'll just say it, hate it. I mean, there was some good stuff happening at the beginning. The dream stuff was fine. The Egwene training stuff is fine. Um, I don't even mind Nynaeve, sneaking up on land. That's all fine. But how she got there, like, are we gonna fill in the gaps of how, like, it just, we're forgetting about the details, and we're just expected to forget it and not think about it. And I hate that lazy writing that's like, well, we didn't think about the Trollocs. We can't have them there, so they're just not there. We lost so much of Shadar Logoth. Mordeth isn't apparently Mordeth isn't important. So I'm interested in what's going to happen with Fane. So I guess the Fane's, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Fane. But I think there was some potential here. And we're off the rails again, just to get the plot point in. Shadar Logoth's important. We got to get it in the show somehow. That's all this is. We got to get Mat his dagger and get the group separated. So I'm quite disappointed with how the Shadar Logoth stuff has gone down. Again, I think if they gave themselves some room to breathe and allowed them time to tell the proper story instead of smashing it into half of a season, I think they could have done so much more. And I don't want to hear those excuses. The excuses about that's all a choice. So, but that's it for this video. I'm going to try and do one on episode 3. Let me know what you think. If you liked it better this way or me go the shorter version with me snapping through it a little bit, let me know. If you liked me just breaking the video down while it's running with the opacity on, so I don't get copyright claimed, let me know. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'd love to keep seeing your comments about the show. It looks like there seems to be more and more people out there that are not very happy with it. If any of you are familiar with Shad from Shadiversity, he has a channel called Night's Watch, and they're breaking down the episodes one at a time, and I tend to agree with a lot of what he says. So they do a great job over there, as they do with all their videos and all Shad's breakdowns. So check that out. Obviously, they're better at me than me at this, so I'm sure their thoughts are more concise and easier to follow. But thanks for hanging out with me. If you have any suggestions, let me know. And until next time, all hail the Lord Dragon, and we'll see you next time.